Welcome to PandaAudioBooks, your perfect destination for immersive fantasy novels and epic Xianxia stories. PandaAudioBooks proudly presents one of the most addictive Xianxia novels of all time, The Treasure-Generating Bowl. In the shadows of the mighty Taishu sect, a lowly menial disciple stumbles upon a forbidden secret that defies the heavens themselves. He Pingxing was nothing, just an insignificant servant scraping by in a merciless cultivation world. But fate placed in his hands the treasure-generating bowl, a mysterious artifact with an endless hunger for potential. Put anything inside, a worthless trinket, a mediocre manual, or a common herb, and watch it double, refine, and evolve into something divine. Low grade becomes peerless. Mortal techniques transform into heaven-tier legacies. With this bowl, even mediocrity can fuel supremacy. From a humble outer disciple stuck at the basic qi refining stage, he Pingxing uses endless upgraded resources to soar through the cultivation realms. He builds a flawless foundation establishment, forges an unparalleled golden core, shatters into nascent soul, and continues ascending far beyond mortal limits. Every breakthrough is explosively accelerated by duplicated treasures, perfected pills, and supreme arts that leave heavenly geniuses shocked and enemies terrified. At the peak of the story, he stands among the strongest existences, reaching Earth Immortal, Great Luo Golden Immortal, and even higher legendary realms, wielding power capable of reshaping sects, toppling dynasties, and challenging the very order of the immortal path. What price does infinite growth demand? And who will dare oppose the man who turns trash into transcendence? Now, experience this thrilling journey of quiet ambition, hidden fortune, and unstoppable rise with PandaAudioBooks. If you enjoy our content and want to support us, a small contribution via PayPal is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Chapter 1: Picking Up a Broken Basin. Your name is He Pingxing? How old are you? In a dark, dilapidated hall resembling a ruined temple, a shirtless man looked at the boy, who was less than 5 feet tall, and asked in a gruff voice. The boy answered respectfully and cautiously, replying to Boss Zhong, "I am 14 years old this year." "What kind of spiritual root?" Boss Zhong asked casually again. He Pingxing said, "It's a 5-element spiritual root." Upon hearing that it possessed the 5-element spiritual root, Boss Zhong immediately revealed a satisfied smile, then chuckled and said, "So it's just a money-wasting item, ha ha ha." Ah. The group of sweaty, smelly men around them burst into laughter. The laughter blended together, shaking the dust off the roof beams. When Boss Zhong's smile stopped, the laughter of the surrounding crowd also ceased, as if they were puppets on strings. Slap. Boss Zhong slapped He Pingxing's thin shoulder with his black, greasy hand and said, "You're so-called Uncle Jiang and I have some connections. He begged me to let me take you in. You're 14 now, not a child anymore. From today onwards, you'll be in charge of fetching water from Xiuzhu Peak. But there's one thing you need to remember. The gentlemen and ladies on Xiuzhu Peak are immortals who can fly and disappear into the earth. They are all extremely noble, and you must treat them with utmost respect. If you displease them, your life will be in danger." He Pingxing's heart tightened, and he quickly replied, "Yes." Boss Zhong continued, "On Xiuzhu Peak, there are 2 places that need water, one of which is the cave dwellings of all the gentlemen. The other place is the canteen for us janitors. This requires a lot of water. You have to get up before dawn every day to start fetching water, and you can't stop until nightfall. You can't rest for a moment in between. Otherwise, we'll never finish this water-carrying job. Did you remember that?" Boss Zhong demanded. He Pingxing nodded, "I've got it. Third brother, take him to familiarize himself with the place. Don't let him miss tomorrow's work, or no one can bear the consequences of the master's punishment." Then a tall, thin middle-aged man stood up and led He Pingxing out of the dark hall and outwards. "Congratulations on your birthday. 14 years old. Born into the outer sect of the Taishu sect, both his parents were once outer sect disciples of the Taishu sect. Unfortunately, when He Pingxing was 8 years old, his father, Xianxia, was killed by a demon beast while searching for opportunities. Less than a month later, his mother also died mysteriously. Then, a group of cultivators from the Taishu sect broke into their home and plundered all the cultivation resources left behind by his parents. From then on, He Pingxing lived with Xianxia, a close friend of his father. At the age of 9, He Pingxing's spiritual root awakened. At the Taishu sect's awakening conference, he awakened a spiritual root containing all 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. I do have a spiritual root, but this kind of spiritual root is the most difficult to cultivate. In the terms of the cultivation world, this spiritual root is a money-wasting item. It requires countless resources to accumulate. To put it simply, the resources needed to cultivate one 5-element spiritual root can often be used to cultivate 10 or even dozens of single spiritual root cultivators. None of the elders and disciples of the Taishu sect were willing to accept him as a disciple, and in the end, He Pingxing didn't even qualify to enter the outer sect. Recently, Xianxia, feeling hopeless about achieving the great Tao and approaching old age, decided to abandon the Tao and return to his hometown to marry, have children, and continue the ancestral bloodline. Unable to take care of the descendants of his former friend, he could only recommend He Pingxing to the miscellaneous servant class of Xiuzhu Peak in the inner sect, to become a miscellaneous disciple. The so-called miscellaneous disciples are, as the name suggests, those who do odd jobs and chores. The world of cultivation is not all immortals. Even immortals need to eat, drink, and relieve themselves. Especially for disciples in the qi refining stage who cannot abstain from grains, daily servants are indispensable. On each of the main peaks of the Taishu sect, there are various service teams responsible for different tasks, such as sanitation, meals, and errands. These tasks can be broken down into dozens of subcategories. Of all the jobs, carrying water is the heaviest. After all, there are many people on the mountain, and they consume countless amounts of water every day. Moreover, to fetch water, one must go to the mountain spring behind the mountain. Although the round trip is only 2 miles, the path is uneven and rugged. He Pingxing chose to suffer here because he still had a sliver of hope for the path to immortality. Although he was a menial disciple, he was close to the immortals on Xiuzhu Peak. Being close meant having opportunities. If he had enough luck, he might be able to obtain 1 or 2 methods of cultivating immortality and enlightenment, and embark on the path of immortality. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It was with this dream in mind that he asked Xianxia to recommend him to Xiuzhu Peak. As for enduring hardship, we weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouths. What life in this world isn't full of hardship? Han Laosan led He Pingxing on a tour of Xiuzhu Peak and showed them 2 huge water vats. He Pingxing's daily task was to fill the water tank. To fill these 2 large water tanks, it would take at least 20 trips to the back mountain. This was undoubtedly a huge challenge for a 14-year-old boy. This is your room. Han Laosan finally led He Pingxing to a courtyard. This courtyard has 6 or 7 houses. Each of the handyman disciples has a separate room. After taking the key and the iron chain, He Pingxing opened the door. The room was completely empty. There were no household items, not even a basic blanket. My dear reader, there's more to, even more exciting content awaits. Fortunately, it's summer now, so I won't get cold at night without a blanket. There was a large iron bowl, though. The cafeteria is at the front. Han Laosan said. Just go there to eat on time every day, or there won't be any left. After saying his last words, Han Laosan seemed to have something to do and hurriedly left. He Pingxing looked around the house and found it empty again. So he raised his hand and locked the door, picked up the 2 buckets, and headed towards the back of the mountain. Logically, he could go fetch water tomorrow. However, preparation is key to success, and lack of preparation leads to failure. If he waited until tomorrow to fetch water, there would be no way to turn back if something went wrong. Therefore, He Pingxing went ahead of time, partly to familiarize himself with the route, and partly to see how long it would take him to fill 2 tanks with water. A clear stream flows down from the mountain peak, turning into a waterfall that falls onto the giant rocks, splashing up snow-white water droplets. The waterfall is not large, only a foot wide, but it flows continuously, and the amount of water is enough to supply the entire mountain. Beneath the giant rocks below the waterfall, a clear, shallow pool is formed. The water was so clear that you could even see the sand and stones at the bottom. He Pingsheng took the 2 large buckets, filled them with clean water, and then carried them on his shoulders and walked back. The 2 buckets of water were so heavy that they almost made it hard for him to breathe. The 2-mile mountain path took a full 15 minutes to traverse. At this speed, one can carry water 2 or 3 times in 1 hour at most. If it is 20 round trips, it will take at least 7 or 8 hours. In order to make tomorrow's work easier, He Pingsheng went to the water's edge again after choosing his spot once. He decided to pick at least 5 times today so that he wouldn't have to work so hard tomorrow. Once, twice, 3 times. The night grew deeper and deeper. When He Pingsheng came to the water's edge for the 5th time to fetch water, he suddenly noticed something shimmering faintly at the bottom of the water. This is... He Pingsheng took a deep breath and stepped forward, only to find a broken ceramic basin lying at the bottom of the clear water not far away. The earthenware basin was dark, and it reflected a sliver of moonlight. Hey! He Pingsheng wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, I thought it was some kind of treasure, but it's just a broken basin. However, this broken basin does have some use. Let's take it back first. It'll come in handy for washing clothes and face. Chapter 2 Lingmi Splash. He Pingsheng poured the 2 buckets of water from the carrying pole into the water vat. The large water tank is only half full. Completed 5 times today. He used the old earthenware basin to collect some water to wash his hands and face, then washed the basin inside and out thoroughly before filling it halfway and returning to the house. This half basin of water is for drinking, so I don't have to go outside if I get thirsty at night. Back inside, He Pingsheng locked the door from the inside and then bolted it shut. The moonlight, like water, streamed into the room through the gaps in the window panes, creating a dappled and dreamlike effect. He Pingsheng rolled onto the bed and fell fast asleep. The next morning, a series of urgent gong sounds came from outside. I need to get up early. He Pingsheng dragged his tired body to his feet, grabbed the iron bowl, and ran to the kitchen. Because it's time to eat. You need to eat a full breakfast to have the energy to work, right? One by one, the servant disciples came out of their rooms and headed towards the dining hall in front. There were more than 20 people, a chaotic mess. Still shirtless but wearing dark red trousers, Boss Zhong called out names one by one after everyone had arrived. After the roll call, he said, Dinner's ready. Old Bao, give this kid plenty of meat, make sure he's full, otherwise he won't have the strength to carry water. He didn't pity He Pingsheng, rather, Zhong Laodar was well aware of the difficulties of carrying water. He Pingsheng was already young, only 14 years old this year. If he didn't eat his fill, how could he have the strength to work? If the work isn't done, then in the end, it's Zhong Laodar who will suffer the consequences. Don't forget, he's the head of this menial work team. Thank you, Boss Zhong. He Pingsheng said, still somewhat bewildered, but with a grateful expression. He was still young and did not yet have a clear understanding of human relationships and basic principles, so he naturally could not have thought of this deeper meaning. It must be said that the food at this immortal sect is quite plentiful. There's plenty of meat for breakfast. After finishing his meal, He Pingsheng washed the dishes and went back to his room to fetch water from the waterfall behind the mountain. However, the scene inside left him speechless. The basin he had used to hold spring water yesterday was lying by the window. It had originally contained only half a basin of clear water, but now that half basin of water had become a full basin, and it had turned a bright green color. That's strange. Has the water gone bad in just one night? He Pingsheng put down the iron bowl, walked to the window, and leaned in to take a closer look. Only when you get closer do you realize that the water is truly green, a deep, vibrant green. It's obviously rotten. Looks like we can't use this basin to hold water anymore. He Pingsheng reached for the basin and poured the bright green water out the window. From now on, we'll use it to wash clothes. With a clatter, He Pingsheng casually tossed the basin to the ground, picked up the carrying pole, and then opened the door to head towards the mountain spring. Since we already picked 5 times yesterday, we only need to pick 15 times today. 15 times may not seem like much, but by the time He Pingsheng finished all the work, it was already late at night. I dragged my tired body back to the cabin. He Pingsheng was immediately troubled. Picking 15 times a day was about his limit, and there were still 20 times tomorrow. How could he pick them all? I had just laid down on the hard bed when I heard a knock on the door. No, to be precise, it was the sound of knocking on the door, and a gruff voice. He Pingxing, open the door. It was Zhong Laoda's voice. He Pingxing removed the bolt from the door and then opened the door with a creak. But then Zhong the elder walked in, carrying a bag and smiling, and said, Pingxing, how are you? Tired today? He Pingxing thought that Boss Zhong was concerned about him, and said gratefully, I'm a little tired. He. Boss Zhong chuckled and said, I saw it too. You ran 5 times yesterday, and you haven't had a moment's rest today either. You've run 15 times in total. Oh dear, I know you're tired. Can we finish the task tomorrow? Faced with Boss Zhong's question, He Pingxing was unsure of himself. All he could say was, I'll definitely work hard tomorrow. Good. Boss Zhong patted him on the shoulder and said, It's good to work hard, but I'm afraid you'll work yourself to death and still not finish this diving task. Look, what's this? Boss Zhong opened the cloth bag in his hand. A small half bag of white rice appeared in front of He Pingxing. He Pingxing asked curiously, Is this rice? It's not rice. Boss Zhong shook his head. The immortal took pity on us menial disciples and decreed that each of us would receive a certain amount of spirit rice every month. Everyone else gets 2 catties a month, but you're different, you get 10 catties every month. Heh. He Pingxing asked, Why? Old Zhong said, What else could it be? Carrying water is hard work. But brother, every newcomer has to go through this stage. I'm not trying to trick you, just ask the others, they've all carried water before. When new people come again, you won't have to carry water anymore. Come on, find something, and I'll pour you some rice. He Pingxing looked around the room and found that the only thing that could hold the spirit rice was that old earthenware pot. He picked up the dark earthenware pot from the ground and placed it on the table. Old Zhong then poured all the rice from his pocket into the basin. In the dim light of the moon, He Pingxing could see a faint greenish hue emanating from the white grains of rice. It really is spiritual rice. He Pingxing had seen this kind of thing before. When Xianxia and Xianxia were outer disciples, they received about 10 catties of spirit rice every month. He Pingxing always ran errands for him to collect it, but Xianxia's spirit rice was the bright green kind. The color of this rice indicates its quality. It is said that the finest spiritual rice has a golden yellow color. The finest Ling rice is emerald green. The items in He Pingxing's ceramic pot were the worst kind of things that immortals wouldn't even look at. Otherwise, how could they have ended up in the hands of these menial disciples? Remember, just boil 2 handfuls a day, eat half before working in the morning and the other half before working in the afternoon. Eat more of this rice, and I guarantee you'll be able to fetch water 20 times a day. After saying that, Boss Zhong simply turned and left. He Pingxing frowned. Because he used to collect Xianxia's spirit rice on his behalf, he knew exactly how much 10 catties of spirit rice was. How could there be 10 pounds of spirit rice in this basin? It's clearly only half, at most 5 pounds. That damn Zhong, could he have withheld my spirit rice? With these thoughts swirling in his mind, He Pingxing locked the door again and then fell asleep. Overthinking is useless. Because he is currently weak, what can he do even if he knows that others are withholding spirit rice? Is it possible to get it back? Cannot. Since it's impossible, I might as well not bother and just go to sleep. Chapter 3 Turning White Rice into Golden Rice. Jingle bells. Jingle bells. As dawn broke, a rapid metallic clanging sound rang out. He Pingxing rubbed his eyes hard, trying to open them despite his sleepiness. A new day has begun. Time to get back to work. It smells so good. The scenery before He Pingxing's eyes gradually became clearer. Where is that fragrance coming from? He sat up abruptly in bed and then looked around. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed slightly. This is... The room was pitch black except for a sliver of dawn light streaming in through the window. Not far from the windowsill, a dark earthenware basin was filled with golden rice. He Pingxing rubbed his eyes hard again. He thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He pinched his thigh hard. Ouch, it hurts. It's not a dream. It's not an illusion. Is this really top-grade spiritual rice? At that moment, He Pingsheng's heart was pounding uncontrollably. He got out of bed and tiptoed to the earthenware basin. Reaching in, I inserted my hand into the golden rice and gently pushed it upwards. It's all gold rice. Although it was the first time he had seen it, He Pingsheng still had this basic common sense. He knew that what was in front of him was top-quality spiritual rice. But why is this happening? Yesterday, didn't that bastard Zhong give me half a basin of ordinary spirit rice that was white with a hint of green? When did it turn golden? Something's not right. He Pingsheng keenly noticed that not only had the quality changed, but the quantity also seemed to have changed. Yesterday there was only half a basin of ordinary spirit rice, but today there is a whole basin full of golden, top-grade spirit rice. What's going on? Could it be that someone came into my room and secretly put it there? He Pingsheng looked toward the door. No. The door bolt was tightly closed, and the iron lock was firmly locked from the inside. No one could possibly get in. So what exactly happened? He Pingsheng was completely baffled. Bang, bang, bang. Just then, a loud banging sound came from the door. He Pingsheng, you're still not up? Get up right now, eat and get to work. Outside, Zhong Laoda's fierce voice could be heard. Get up, Boss Zhong, I'll be right there. He Pingsheng quickly put the bowl of golden rice and the earthenware pot under the bed, covered it with his clothes, and then opened the door, carrying the large iron bowl to the canteen. However, his mind was still on the golden spirit rice. Xiao He, eat more meat, so you'll have the energy to work. Old Bao from the canteen scooped a large spoonful of meat into He Pingsheng's bowl and said, Eat more. Hey, thank you, Uncle Bao. He Pingsheng said gratefully. After getting his food, he squatted under the eaves outside the canteen and began to wolf it down. Kid. Boss Zhong walked up to him, looking down at He Pingsheng. I know you're tired, but you can't slack off. Remember my words, eat some spirit rice later. You must complete today's task, or you can forget about sleeping tonight. Hey, hey, hey. He Pingsheng nodded as he wolfed down his food. By the time Boss Zhong left, He Pingsheng had almost finished his bowl of rice. Uncle Bao, he said, holding up his empty bowl, give me another bowl. All right. Old Bao was generous and gave He Pingsheng another big bowl of meat. In the immortal realm, meat is plentiful, so this stuff isn't worth much. After finishing his meal, He Pingsheng returned to his room, locked the door from the inside, and then took the spirit rice out from under the bed. Should I cook some lingmi, a type of rice? No, no. The moment this thought came to mind, He Pingsheng immediately rejected it. Why? Because it smells so good. He remembered the aroma of the spirit rice he had cooked for Xianxia back then. The rich fragrance could travel dozens of feet. That was just green, top-grade spirit rice, while mine is golden, the finest grade. If the aroma is too strong and someone discovers it, wouldn't they accuse me of stealing rice? No, absolutely not. He Pingsheng reached out and grabbed a handful of golden spirit rice, then swallowed it whole. If cooking it won't work, then I'll just eat it raw. After a few mouthfuls of spirit rice, He Pingsheng felt as if a fire was burning in his stomach. No, to be precise, it was a warm, gentle fire slowly burning. This fire surged from his stomach to his limbs and bones, instantly giving him an inexhaustible energy. It seemed that all the fatigue from yesterday had vanished in an instant. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Wow, that's amazing. Jinmi is truly exceptional. Regardless of where the golden rice came from, He Pingsheng poured the rice out of the basin, put it into the trouser leg of his unused clothes, tied both ends tightly, and then put it on the bed, thus making a simple and ugly pillow. Now, even if someone breaks into the house, there's no fear of being noticed. He carefully covered the pillow with some old clothes before leaving the house. He picked up 2 huge buckets and ran swiftly towards the mountain spring. It was a sweltering summer day. He Pingsheng was already sweating profusely as soon as he reached the waterfall. He put down the bucket, went to the pool, bent down, and drank a couple of mouthfuls of cool water. Cool. However, the taste of the spring water seems to have changed somewhat. He Pingsheng couldn't quite put his finger on how it had changed, but it just didn't taste as good as it used to. I started working after drinking some water. He carried 2 huge wooden barrels filled with spring water on his shoulders, and today they actually felt much lighter. As he Pingxing carried water, he praised the spirit rice, saying it was indeed amazing. Just a handful had given him such great strength. Time and time again. In less than a morning, he Pingxing had filled the large vat at the entrance of the servant disciples' canteen. I counted, and I've actually made 10 trips already. That's way too fast. Back at the mountain spring, he Pingxing didn't rush to continue fetching water, but instead rested. Although he was only 14 years old and there were some things he didn't quite understand, he still had a basic sense of danger. He Pingxing knew that if he completed the task so quickly, it would definitely arouse Zhong Laoda's suspicion. If Zhong Laoda investigated further, the matter of the golden rice might be exposed. At that point, death will truly be imminent. So, let's be careful and not rush things. So, for the next noon and afternoon, he Pingxing started working slowly and deliberately. Although it was easy for him, he made it seem like he was having a very hard time. It wasn't until long after nightfall that he Pingxing's 20 water baths finally ended. Although I had to pick 5 more times today than yesterday, it was actually much easier because of the help of the spiritual rice. Chapter 4 Great Aunt days passed by. In the blink of an eye, he Pingxing had been at Xiaoju Peak for more than half a month. Nothing particularly noteworthy happened during the past 2 weeks. However, he Pingxing himself gained weight and strength after consuming meat and spirit rice for more than half a month, along with carrying water on foot every day. He has become much stronger. Carrying water will naturally not be as strenuous. To put it simply, he can now easily carry water 20 times a day. However, in order to conceal the role of the golden rice, he Pingxing still had to put on an expression of being exhausted every day. On this day, the weather was clear and the sky was blue. As usual, he Pingxing carried water from the mountain spring to the entrance of the canteen. Before he even reached the large vat, he saw a group of people gathered in front of the canteen from afar. It's colorful and eye-catching. He Pingxing looked around and suddenly saw many strangers. There were direct disciples wearing the special Taoist robes of the Taishu sect, as well as miscellaneous disciples like he Pingxing. Everyone gathered around, pointing and whispering, discussing animatedly. Occasionally, a stern female voice could be heard. He Pingxing didn't want to get close, but before he could pour the bucket of water into the vat, he heard a woman say, "Hey, you water carrier, come here." He Pingxing then turned around and looked over. A gap appeared in the dense crowd, revealing a woman in a pink Taoist robe staring at him with wide eyes and an angry expression. In front of the woman in the pink Taoist robe, Boss Zhong lay on the ground like a dog, with blood still dripping from the corner of his mouth. What happened? Boss Zhong got beaten up. Greetings, Aunt, Grandma. He Pingxing put down the water-carrying pole, respectfully approached the woman, and bowed. The rules within the Taishu sect are very strict. When the servant disciples see the inner disciples, they must bow and pay their respects, and even kowtow. When you see a male disciple, whether you know him or not, you must respectfully address him as master. When you see a female disciple, you must address her as grandma. Are you the handyman responsible for fetching water? The woman in the pink Taoist robe looked at he Pingxing with a frosty expression. He Pingxing took a deep breath and said cautiously, "Yes, I am in charge of fetching water." Clang! Without saying a word, the woman drew her sword from her waist and swung it forward, the blade pointing directly at he Pingxing. Before the sword arrived, a sharp gust of wind blew by. He Pingxing was so frightened that he took 3 or 4 steps back. The woman said, "I have a question for you, and if you dare to lie to me, I won't let you off today." Yes, yes, yes. He Pingxing lowered his head again. The woman said, "The spring water of my Xiaoju Peak has always been clear and sweet, the best among the 9 peaks of the Taishu sect. Even Tianyi Peak can't compare to us. Now, I ask you, why has the water become increasingly filthy lately? Very ordinary, and hard to swallow." He Pingxing's face immediately fell. Yes. When he first came here, he thought the water tasted great, but lately it's become increasingly bland and unremarkable. He Pingxing himself also wanted to know the answer. This. I don't know either. He Pingxing didn't know, so he could only tell the truth. HMPH. The woman snorted coldly, her eyes flashing with two sharp glints. You filthy wretch, did you perhaps bathe in that spring while fetching water, thus defiling the sacred spring of our Xiaoju Peak? If so, I'll kill you. He Pingxing was immediately terrified and said, This has never happened before, please investigate carefully, madam. Before the woman could speak, Zhong, who was lying on the ground, suddenly jumped up, ran to He Pingxing, and kicked him. With a bang, He Pingxing was kicked to the ground. Boss Zhong swung his fist and slammed it into his head several times, saying, You damned bastard! I made you carry water, and you were resentful, so you dared to pollute the water source. I'll beat you to death, you ignorant fool. Bang bang bang. Boss Zhong hit him a few more times. Seeing that He Pingxing was bleeding profusely from his mouth and nose, he finally stopped and said, Don't worry, Grandma, I'll chop this bastard up and feed him to the dogs later. After saying that, Boss Zhong kicked He Pingxing several more times. Although He Pingxing has become stronger recently, he is still only a 14-year-old boy. How can he compare to Zhong Laodar, who is over 30 years old and fierce? He was naturally no match for them and could only cower in fear. The woman's expression softened a bit, and she said, It's good to chop this bastard up and replace him with a more sensible one. But this is your own business as a janitor. Upon hearing that these people were really going to decide his life or death, He Pingxing panicked. He scrambled to his feet and quickly said, Grandma, please understand. I fetch water every day and have no time to bathe over there. Please investigate. Grandma. This has nothing to do with me. At this moment, another woman dressed in a blue robe walked over in a panic from a distance. Junior sister, what are you doing? The woman in green asked. Are you about to cause trouble again? The woman in pink said, Second senior sister, you've arrived. It's nothing serious. It's just that these filthy and disgusting servant disciples dared to bathe in the spring water behind the mountain, polluting the sacred spring. That's why the water tastes different these days. I'm here to uphold justice and kill these filthy creatures. No! The woman in green exclaimed in alarm. This must not be done. Seeing that he could be saved, He Pingxing quickly took 2 steps toward the woman in green and said, Grandma, please understand, I have never bathed in that pool. I drink the water from here regularly, how could I possibly disgust myself with it? The woman in green nodded, then turned her gaze from He Pingxing to the woman in pink. Junior sister, if someone is bathing in the pool, the water probably won't taste any different. If you want to know what happened, you should go to the mountain spring yourself. We can't wrong people for no reason. Although they are all lowly servants, they have all had a hard life. HMPH. The woman in pink snorted coldly, feeling very embarrassed. The woman in green said, How about this, I'll go with you to the mountain spring to take a look. You guys come along too, and see what's wrong with the water. He Pingxing didn't know what to call the 2 women, but it was clear that the woman in green had more influence. The group followed the 2 men towards the back of the mountain. When he walked, He Pingxing limped and was in pain all over. His face was covered in bruises. Even so, He Pingxing was still carrying 2 empty buckets. After all, we still have work to do later. Otherwise, the consequences could be even more serious. Chapter 5 Elixirs. The stream flows gently. Before long, everyone arrived at the waterfall, which was about a foot wide. Bring me the bucket. Boss Zhong shouted at He Pingxing, then snatched the bucket and went to the water's edge to fill it halfway. With great effort, Zhong Laodar brought the water to the woman in green, then said with a beaming smile, Grandma, please take a look. The woman in green nodded, then scooped up some water and put it in her mouth. Her brows furrowed. Second senior sister, how is it? The woman in pink asked as she walked over. Before the woman in green could speak, the woman in pink also scooped up some water and put it in her mouth. Upon tasting it, she flew into a rage, saying, You've polluted this water source. Boy, you deserve to die. She stared at He Pingxing with her almond-shaped eyes. The woman in green shook her head and said, Not necessarily. This water is flowing water. Even if it has been polluted a bit, how could it have completely lost its original taste? I think the problem is most likely upstream.
Come?
The woman in green gave a soft shout, and then her magical power suddenly surged out. She used a celestial technique that even He Pingsheng couldn't understand. A stream of water flew from the waterfall and landed precisely in the woman's snow-white hand. The woman in green took the opportunity to put the water into her mouth. The woman in pink asked, "Senior sister, how is it?" The woman in green shook her head. "This water is wrong. It tastes completely different from before. I'm afraid there's a problem right at the source." The source? The woman in pink raised her head and looked up along the waterfall. The topmost point, facing the direction from which the water flows, is the highest section of the mountain range behind Xiaozhu Peak. The cliffs here are so steep that ordinary disciples simply cannot climb them. A servant like He Pingsheng would never dream of reaching the summit in his entire life. Therefore, in a sense, this change in water quality probably has absolutely nothing to do with He Pingsheng. The woman in pink knew perfectly well that she had wronged the person. However, as a dignified inner disciple, she naturally wouldn't apologize to a lowly servant disciple. Instead, she turned her head, glared at He Pingsheng, and gave a cold snort. "You're in charge of fetching water. You should have told me immediately if the water quality changed. You're to blame for this. We always need to find some excuse, right?" But the woman in green showed no respect to the woman in pink. She looked at He Pingsheng, sighed, and said, "It's not his fault to begin with. All right, junior sister, let's report this to master and have others investigate. May I have your name?" The woman in green looked at He Pingsheng. He Pingsheng cupped his hands in greeting, replying to your question, "Great aunt, I am He Pingsheng. This matter has nothing to do with you. My junior sister misunderstood you." The woman in green extended her jade-like hand and handed a snow-white porcelain bottle to He Pingsheng. Inside are 2 golden bone pills. "Take one, and your injuries will heal within 3 days. As for the remaining one, it's compensation for you." He Pingsheng felt a pang of unease, unsure whether to accept or refuse. The woman in green had already placed the porcelain bottle into his arms. "Senior sister." The woman in pink beside her looked reluctant and said, "He's just a lowly servant. Why should we apologize to him? He's dead, so what? Does Xiaozhu Peak care about 1 or 2 servants?" "Junior sister, you can't say that. I've heard my master say that mortals shouldn't be killed indiscriminately, otherwise you'll incur karma, which will be detrimental to your future cultivation. I'm doing this for your own good." The 2 of them spoke softer and softer. He Pingsheng looked up and found that the 2 women had already walked away. "Call." He breathed a sigh of relief. Zhong Laodar, standing nearby, also breathed a sigh of relief. Many people around were eyeing the porcelain bottle in He Pingsheng's hand with covetous intent. He Pingsheng was so frightened that he quickly grabbed the porcelain bottle. "You, all of you, get the hell out of here." Old Zhong waved his hand. Then those people were so frightened that they all left in an instant. Beside the vast mountain spring, only He Pingsheng and Zhong Laodar remained. "Little he." Boss Zhong put on a smiling face and said, "What I just said was only for the ladies upstairs to hear. Don't take it seriously. Do you think I would really beat you to death? Our Xiaozhu Peak is a place that values rules." He Pingsheng didn't speak. He didn't know how to respond to Boss Zhong. Because just now, he really felt the killing intent emanating from Boss Zhong. Beat you up was actually a way of saving you. Boss Zhong continued to look at He Pingsheng, and said with a smile, "Think about it. If I don't hit you, won't that old lady hit you? She's got her sword pointed at you. If I were to take action, at most I'd beat you up, make your mouth and nose bleed, and suffer some superficial injuries. But if I don't make a move, when that old lady does, she'll chop you in half with one sword, and you'll be a cold corpse right now. No, it should be called 2 cold halves of a corpse." He Pingsheng shuddered for no apparent reason. Although Zhong Laodar's words were somewhat unreasonable, what he said was true. If he waited for that woman to make a move, he might really lose his life. Of course, This doesn't mean that Boss Zhong meant well. So, Xiao He. Boss Zhong said shamelessly, I saved your life. You can't shirk your debt of gratitude for saving your life, can you? This chapter is not finished. Please click the next page to continue reading. As he spoke, his gaze drifted to He Pingsheng's arms, fixed on the white porcelain vase. He Pingsheng finally understood. This guy wants my pills. Brother Zhong. He Pingsheng said, I'm injured. I need these pills to heal my injuries. Otherwise, I won't be able to complete my tasks these next few days. He. Boss Zhong chuckled and said, don't you have two? If you do this, give me one. Use the remaining pill to heal your injuries. And another thing. Boss Zhong continued, starting tomorrow, I'll give you an easier job. I'll have someone else do the water carrying work tomorrow. How about it? He Pingsheng began to make plans in his mind. First of all, not giving it to me is probably not an option. If we don't give it to him, and he sets his sights on it again, then we'll be in for a world of trouble later. Secondly, giving it to them might bring some benefits in return. Well, discretion is the better part of valor. I'm not being cowardly, but rather making a slight compromise. Okay. He Pingsheng said, I hope you keep your word, Boss Zhong, and give me an easy job tomorrow. He opened the porcelain bottle, took out a red pill, and handed it to Boss Zhong. Boss Zhong didn't take it, but instead gestured with his chin and said, I want the one with the bottle. To put it bluntly, this guy wants to take the bottle with him. Have to. He Pingsheng wouldn't hold a grudge and gave the bottle to Boss Zhong as well. Boss Zhong took the bottle, opened it, glanced at it, and said, that's right, it's a grade 1 golden bone pill. Kid, I'm in a good mood today and I'll teach you a move. Do you see the patterns on this pill? These are called cinnabar patterns. One cinnabar pattern indicates that the elixir is of low grade, 2 patterns indicate that it is of medium grade, and 3 patterns indicate that it is of high grade. Let's go. Old Zhong stuffed the white porcelain bottle into his pocket and left smugly. Chapter 6 is a treasure trove. He Pingsheng returned to his small house. The wound, which hadn't hurt much just moments before, suddenly started to throb with pain. Fortunately, Han Laosan came over and told him that because of his injury, Zhong Laodar hadn't assigned him any other work these past 2 days. You can rest for 2 days. Otherwise, He Pingsheng's life would be even more difficult. After Han Laosan left, several people came over one after another asking questions. They all had the same goal, to find out where He Pingsheng's pills had gone. He Pingsheng spoke vaguely, making everyone believe that Zhong Laodar had stolen all the pills, thus extinguishing their covetousness. This tactic is undoubtedly very effective. For the rest of the day, no one came to He Pingsheng's door to inquire. The whole world became quiet. He Pingsheng locked his door from the inside, then bolted it shut before returning to the bedside and taking out a blood-red golden bone pill from his bosom. The question is, should we eat it or not? After eating it, your injuries will definitely be fully healed within 3 days. According to that aunt, not only for superficial injuries, but even for serious injuries in the future, eating this stuff can quickly restore one's energy and blood, allowing one to move around as before within a few days. This is really good stuff. It's a treasure that only immortals and immortals can use, so calling it an elixir of immortality shouldn't be an exaggeration, right? After much deliberation, He Pingsheng decided to put the elixir away. He couldn't bear to eat it. I should be able to tough it out. I should definitely keep this precious elixir. It will be an extra layer of protection should I suffer a serious injury in the future. In a critical moment, it might save a life. He Pingsheng scanned the room and found that apart from the dark earthenware basin, there was no other container for the elixir. That snow-white porcelain vase was snatched away by Boss Zhong. Then let's put it in the basin first. He Pingsheng threw a blood-red pill into the ceramic basin, then covered the basin with a wooden board, and pushed the basin and the board together deep under the bed. After everything was done, He Pingsheng secretly grabbed a handful of spirit rice from under his pillow and stuffed it into his mouth. Spirit rice can increase strength, hopefully it will also help with the injury. He Pingsheng was right after all. After most of the day had passed, when He Pingsheng was lying in bed after dinner, he felt that his injuries had healed considerably. At least it doesn't hurt as much when I'm lying on a hard wooden bed. I got up early the next morning and ate breakfast. During the mealtime, Zhong the elder approached He Pingsheng again, grinning, and said, "Brother, I've found you an easier job. Starting this morning, you will go to the alchemy room on Xianxia Peak and be responsible for cleaning and tidying it up. This job isn't heavy. Sometimes, if the gentlemen aren't refining pills, you don't have to clean up. How about it?" He Pingsheng didn't feel anything. Anyway, working in the alchemy room was definitely easier than carrying water, right? Okay. He Pingsheng nodded, his face showing gratitude. "Thank you, Brother Zhong." "Don't thank me." Boss Zhong took a deep breath and said, "Let me make this clear first. This alchemy room is the public alchemy room of our Xianxia Peak. There is a disciple named Dan Yan who serves the alchemists. You are different. You are a handyman. After you go there, you will only do some work such as emptying the furnace ashes, chopping wood, and cleaning. But some gentlemen have bad tempers. If they fail at alchemy, they'll be even more upset and might take it out on us servants. If you don't have the sense to turn around and get yourself beaten up, don't blame me for not warning you." Oh no. He Pingsheng then realized that something was wrong. Looking around, sure enough, many people were giving me looks that said, "You're dead meat." Boss Zhong added, "Everything has its pros and cons. If the masters refine satisfactory pills, they might reward you with some items in their good mood. Even the smallest amount that slips through the fingers of the immortals is enough for you to enjoy for a lifetime. He Pingsheng, be more observant. Let's move today. There are special rooms in the alchemy room, you'll live there from now on. But we still need to come back here for 3 meals a day. Carrying water and cleaning the alchemy room, one is tiring, the other is deadly." He Pingsheng couldn't tell whether he was sad or happy, but he always felt that if he was closer to the immortals, his path to immortality would be wider. More opportunities are definitely a good thing. As long as you're quick-witted, there shouldn't be any problems. Back inside, it's time to move. He Pingsheng locked the door from the inside and bolted it shut. There's really nothing worth moving. There were only some clothes. The rest were some golden spirit rice that he had secretly hidden away, and a pill. For He Pingsheng, the elixir of immortality was the most important thing. He bent down and crawled under the bed, laboriously taking out the ceramic pot that had been stuffed in yesterday. He lifted the mold on top and was immediately stunned. 2. Indeed, 2 pills lay quietly inside that dark basin. Didn't I put one in? How did it become 2? He Pingsheng's heart began to pound wildly. At this moment, the strange things that had happened in the past few days flashed through his mind one by one. The water in the basin increased and turned green. The exciting content. The white spirit rice placed in the basin turned into golden spirit rice, and the quantity doubled. Now, the 1 pill placed in this basin has turned into 2. Hiss hiss hiss. Is this pot some kind of treasure? He Pingsheng felt that he was not real at all at this moment. He pinched his thigh hard with his hand. The pain brought him back to his senses. After sitting on the ground staring blankly at the basin for about half an incense stick's time, the 14-year-old boy scratched his head, reached out and picked up one of the pills, examining it closely. 1, 2, 3, 4. As he looked at it, he muttered to himself, counting the patterns on the pill. Yesterday, Boss Zhong told him that these pills also come in different qualities. The same type of elixir can be classified into inferior, medium, and superior grades. The key distinguishing feature is the pattern on it. A single red mark indicates a low-grade elixir. 2 red patterns indicate a mid-grade elixir. 3 red patterns indicate a high-grade elixir that only appears in legends. He Pingsheng clearly remembered that the pill from yesterday was a pattern. But now, there are 4 lines on this pill. What the hell is this? Could it be, there are pills of even higher quality than top-grade pills? He Pingsheng's heart was pounding with excitement. Treasure bowl. He Pingsheng stared excitedly at the black shed in front of him, his heart pounding in his throat, This thing is a treasure trove. Chapter 7: The Alchemy Room Treasure Bowl. Baby, etc. He Pingxing took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing slightly. He thought of something else. The spring. That's right. Yesterday, the two women came and said that the spring water had changed and was no longer as clear and sweet as before. Previously, He Pingxing didn't know the reason, but now he roughly knows what happened. This pot will turn green after water is placed in it. It seems that the green water wasn't spoiled or moldy. It must have contained something that could make the spring water sweet and clear. This basin had been lying at the bottom of the shallow pool, producing green water every day, but it was diluted by this huge pool. So you can't see anything on the surface, but in reality, it can affect water quality. Later, He Pingxing took the basin away, and its water purifying function disappeared. It's no wonder that the once clear and sweet mountain spring has become an ordinary water source. After considering the various events in turn, He Pingxing finally realized that the basin in his hand was an unparalleled treasure. What a treasure! He touched the basin with his hand, and then decisively swallowed the golden bone pill with 4 pill patterns in his hand. Since this treasure can turn one thing into 2, what's wrong with me eating this golden bone pill? Put the last one in, and you'll get 2 more tomorrow. Boom! The pill melted instantly upon entering his mouth, and a powerful aura surged through He Pingxing's body. He felt a warm sensation inside his body. The injuries and bruises on my hands and arms are visibly fading. My chest doesn't hurt anymore, and my head doesn't hurt anymore either. The occasional bloody smell coming from my nasal cavity has also disappeared. Within the time it takes to eat a meal, He Pingxing's body had recovered to its previous state, without a single injury. That's incredible. He Pingxing felt a sense of unreality once again. He continued to pinch his thigh hard. It took him about half an hour to completely calm down from his excitement and joy. We can't just get excited, we also need to think about what to do next. We're moving. However, there are still considerable risks involved in his life. The treasure bowl doesn't matter, because from the outside it just looks like an ordinary broken bowl. I don't care about pills either. Because it's so small, it can be easily hidden in the corner of your clothes without being noticed. But the key point is that there's also a pile of golden rice. What to do? Did you take it with you when you moved, or did you lose it? After a few breaths of thought, He Pingxing made his decision. He put the clothes and the rice in a basin, covering them completely. Only after everyone in the yard had left did he tiptoe out of the house and go to the toilet. There's a drain in the toilet. Without hesitation, He Pingxing poured all the golden spirit rice into the dung beak. The golden rice sank and disappeared into the sewage. And this sewage will be washed into the gullies by the water flow. So, everything has vanished without a trace. After finishing these tasks, He Pingxing took his basin, clothes, and large iron bowl for eating, and headed towards the alchemy room on Xianxia Peak. Xianxia Peak is huge. The mountain is thousands of feet high, but some land has been cleared out on it, and pavilions and towers have been built. These buildings are located in relatively flat areas, but flat land on the mountain is scarce and scattered, so many places on Xianxia Peak are also quite dispersed. Walking uphill from the servants' quarters for about 3 or 4 miles, you'll reach a building that looks like a temple from the outside. He Pingxing was literate, and this was the alchemy room. Upon entering the courtyard, one is greeted by clumps of dense bamboo. Hidden among the bamboo groves is a grand hall painted yellow. The hall is solemn and ancient, but the high walls are covered with cobwebs. A young man in his early 20s saw He Pingxing approaching and pointed at him from the high steps. Wait a minute, are you the new handyman disciple in the alchemy room? Yes. He Pingxing placed the earthenware basin on the ground and bowed respectfully to the man. This humble one is He Pingxing. Come over. The man beckoned with his hand. He Pingxing then carried the pottery basin up. The man reached into the earthenware basin and began rummaging through it. He found He Pingxing's clothes, a large iron bowl, a pair of chopsticks, and then the old earthenware basin. A mocking smile crept across the young man's lips as he said, "You're really poor." He Pingxing felt a lingering fear. Luckily, he had thrown the golden spirit rice into the latrine earlier. otherwise he really wouldn't have been able to get through this ordeal today. All right, the young man said. Let me tell you, my surname is Hao, and I'm the immortal in charge of this alchemy room. From now on, you'll be in charge of all the odd jobs in this alchemy room. See that house over there? That's where you'll be living from now on. Go ahead, put your things away, and then come find me. Let me tell you about your mission. Yes. He Pingsheng bowed respectfully again. Senior brother. After saying that, he carried the earthenware basin into the house not far away. This house is similar to the servants' quarters we lived in before, but it's larger and has a separate room. The partitioned room leads to the bedroom, which contains a bed and bedding. The exciting content. Outside was a table and some miscellaneous items. Well, how should I put it? It's slightly better than the menial workers class. He Pingsheng placed the ceramic basin in his bedroom, locked the door, and returned to the entrance of the main hall where senior brother Hao was. Come in. Hao's voice came from inside. He Pingsheng cautiously walked in. The alchemy room is quite clean. It can be described as spotless. The main hall is very large and open. In the very center of the hall is a huge alchemy furnace, which is spherical and has 3 legs. Between the 3 legs are 3 doorways for storing firewood. Firewood is naturally used for burning. Fire is an essential element in alchemy. Upon seeing this, He Pingsheng was somewhat taken aback. In his imagination, the immortal's alchemy was nothing more than a wisp of immortal fire flying out to ignite the furnace. But here, it really was burned with firewood. Come here. Senior brother Hao waved his hand and said, Let me tell you about your job. The first task is to clean this main hall. Look closely. When refining pills, ashes fly everywhere, so this room is full of dust. After the alchemy is finished, you must not only clean up the ashes on the table, the floor, and the roof beams, but you must also empty the ashes from the bottom of the alchemy furnace. This is the most basic job. Besides this, we also need to chop firewood. Firewood is extremely important. Many people run into problems because of it. You need to remember, be careful. Chapter 8 Senior brother Hao Yun Firewood is a subject of great learning. So, senior brother Hao began to explain the principles of firewood to He Pingsheng. There are 2 types of firewood used for alchemy. One type is hardwood. One type is soft firewood. The soft material is used for starting a fire. Under normal circumstances, there are no special requirements. Dry thatch will suffice. There are many more categories of hardwood. He categorized firewood into different types based on the type of wood, such as elm firewood, chestnut firewood, jujube firewood, paulownia firewood, and so on. Each type of firewood comes in different sizes, such as large, medium, and small. Different types of firewood are needed to refine different elixirs. When refining the same batch of pills, the size of the fire needs to be controlled at different stages. This control of the fire size is achieved by combining and matching large, medium, and small firewood. Of course. Senior brother Hao said, you don't need to know the specifics of how to control it. Starting the fire is my job. Your job is to chop and cut wood. Go and chop firewood on the mountain as I request, then dry the firewood and chop it into the size I need. The specific specifications are over there. Go and take a look yourself. He Pingsheng walked out of the main hall and then went around to the back. There is a shed at the back specifically for storing firewood. He glanced inside and saw that there was a lot of firewood, with various sizes and types categorized and neatly stacked. No one has come to refine pills lately. Senior brother Hao, who had somehow followed us, said, you can go up the mountain to chop firewood and familiarize yourself with the work. He Pingsheng immediately became curious. How did you know that no one has been refining pills recently, senior brother? Senior brother Hao smiled and said, that's very simple. If the immortals of Shouju Peak are refining pills, they will notify us a few days in advance to prepare. They will also tell me what kind of pills we need to refine and when to refine them. Otherwise, if we're not well prepared, what's the point of him refining pills when he arrives? He Pingsheng was immediately filled with respect. Senior brother is indeed remarkable. Even those immortals have to apply to you in advance before they come here. Hehehe. Senior brother Hao chuckled and said, that's because, even though we're of low status, sometimes they still have to ask us for help, don't they? However, there was a hint of something unsettling about Hao's smile. After looking around, Pingxing picked up his axe and went up the mountain to start cutting down trees. He also recognizes all kinds of trees. Chopping wood is no easier than carrying water, but there's no set quota like carrying water, and the amount of firewood consumed each day is far less than that of drinking water. So overall, it was relatively easy. After dinner, Pingxing locked himself in the small room, then took out the remaining golden bone pill and gently placed it in the old ceramic pot. After placing it inside, he put the ceramic basin on the bedside table and stared at it intently. Pingxing wanted to see how this treasure basin could turn one treasure into two. But even by midnight, the pot remained completely still. No way. I couldn't take it anymore, so I had to go to sleep. The first thing I did when I woke up the next morning was to look into that dark earthenware pot. However, to Pingxing's astonishment, the pill in the basin remained completely still. Just one. The quality has not changed at all. Looking at the basin from all sides, Pingxing felt a pang of disappointment. Could it be that I misjudged it, and this basin is not a treasure basin at all? Is this just an ordinary basin? How do you explain what happened before? Is someone joking with me? Why are you so distracted? Pingxing, you seem to have something on your mind. After finishing his meal, senior brother Hao pushed his bowl onto the table and said, tell me about it. Pingxing quickly said, no. Nothing is perfect. Senior brother Hao said, wash the dishes for me, and I have some good news for you. Pingxing picked up the two bowls, went out to wash them clean, and then returned to the main hall. Senior brother Hao said, 5 days from now, Senior Uncle Yu Xian from Xiuzhu Peak will be coming to refine pills, and he'll be refining foundation establishment pills. Pingxing naturally didn't understand what foundation establishment pills were, but a sense of unease arose in his heart. As some people have said before, the most dangerous time is when immortals are refining elixirs. If the alchemy fails, the precious herbs that have been painstakingly collected and costly will be lost. If they get angry and lose their temper, they might take it out on the alchemists and servants. Injuring or crippling them would be a minor matter. How could this not make one uneasy? Who? Senior brother Hao took a deep breath. Go and prepare. Refining the foundation establishment pill requires a lot of chestnut wood, so prepare well, prepare plenty. We should pray that Senior Uncle Yu Xian will succeed in refining the elixir. Pingxing didn't know what a foundation establishment pill was, but Hao Yun did. The materials for foundation establishment pills are incredibly precious. If the pill refining fails, hiss, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yes, I'll go right away. Pingxing temporarily forgot about the treasure basin, picked up his axe, and headed up the mountain. A long day. But there's enough chestnut firewood. Over the next few days, all that's needed is to chop the firewood into appropriately sized pieces. Night. Back inside. Then I saw that black ceramic basin again. Pingxing was unwilling to give up, so he fetched half a basin of water from outside and placed it by his bedside. He couldn't sleep and kept a close eye on the pottery basin. In the stillness of the night, the moonlight, like water, shines down from the mid-sky. The exciting content. A ray of moonlight shone through the window of Pingxing's bedroom and fell on the blue stone floor, dappling the ground with soft, serene light. At that moment, Pingxing suddenly noticed that on the ground illuminated by the moonlight, particles of light, like individual particles, emerged, gathered together, and moved toward the black ceramic basin. At this moment, Pingxing became excited again. No problem. This treasure bowl is indeed fine. Moonlight and moon radiance blend into the water. The water seemed unchanged. However, after Pingxing stared at the water for an hour, he noticed that the water seemed to have turned slightly green. And it seems there have been more of them. When he woke up the next morning, he looked at the earthenware basin with dark circles under his eyes and bloodshot eyes, only to find that the water in the basin had filled it to the brim. Green water. Green as jade, reflecting the morning sun, it presents a verdant scene. Call. I'm relieved. This proves that this thing is indeed a treasure trove. Splash. He Pingsheng poured the basin full of water under the bed as quickly as possible. No matter what, this thing shouldn't be kept. Even if something is gone, it can still be reassembled. But if someone discovers anything amiss, then it's all over. The water was poured onto the ground, and an incredibly refreshing scent immediately filled the air. Just one whiff of it is enough to make you feel refreshed and relaxed. He Pingsheng thought to himself, I wonder if this stuff is drinkable? But now is not the time for research. We'll catch a squirrel later and try it out on it. Chapter 9. This is the true immortal. In the following days, He Pingsheng worked while secretly conducting experiments with various items. He didn't have any treasures on hand. The items he looked for were all ordinary things. One day, a wild idea popped into his head. He took the axe he usually used for chopping wood into the house, then removed the axe and placed it in the black ceramic basin. Since water, spirit rice, and pills can be enhanced in the treasure basin, can an ordinary axe do the same? Give it a try. He Pingsheng couldn't sleep at night and secretly looked at the basin. When the moonlight rose, that magical scene reappeared. The dappled moonlight that fell to the ground slowly condensed into moon radiance, which then flew into the treasure basin. The moonlight slowly adhered to the surface of the axe. It really works. He Pingsheng didn't dare to breathe loudly, just stared quietly until he couldn't stay awake any longer and fell asleep. The first thing he did when he woke up the next morning was to look at the axe in the treasure bowl. Hiss hiss hiss. 2. That's right. I put one axe in yesterday, and this morning there were 2. Moreover, the quality of this axe seems to have improved. Although this axe was shiny before, its texture was a bit lacking. Now, the axe head has a dark color and is not very shiny, but it looks very pleasing. Give it a try. He Pingsheng put away one of the axes, then attached a handle to the other axe, and went out. After the meal, we went directly to the timber storage area behind the main hall and started chopping firewood. He first took a log, stood it up, and then swung the axe down hard. Click. With that one strike, the axe cleaved the log in 2. This is jujube wood. He Pingsheng clearly remembered that jujube wood was the most difficult to chop. In the past, it would take at least 10 strokes to split a round log like this. And now, it only took 1 use? He certainly didn't believe that his own strength had increased. There's only one possibility: the axe has become sharper. He Pingsheng's experiments, however, continued. After several days of experimentation, he discovered several characteristics of this treasure bowl. First, this dark, earthenware basin is undoubtedly a powerful and extraordinary treasure. Secondly, so far, it seems that no matter what is put into it, the treasure bowl can enhance it, and not only enhance it, but also increase its quantity. 1 becomes 2, a doubling of the change. Third, items that have been enhanced by the treasure basin cannot be enhanced a second time. For example, the golden bone pill from before. After being strengthened by the treasure basin, it acquired 4 pill patterns, so when He Pingsheng put it in for the second time, it no longer worked. He Pingsheng once suspected that there was something wrong with the basin. Soon, the crucial day arrived. Early in the morning, senior brother Hao Yun called He Pingsheng out and arranged for him to clean the main hall again and to transport various sizes of wood to the alchemy room in advance according to the quantity. Not only did they prepare wood, but they also prepared a large vat of clean water. Uncle Master Yu Xian has a good temper. With everything ready, Hao Yun wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, on Shouju Peak, apart from the elders in the golden core stage, he has the highest cultivation level. It is said that he has reached the 10th level of the foundation establishment stage. This time, he is probably refining foundation establishment pills for his disciples. Among the dozens of immortals, big and small, on Shouju Peak, Uncle Yuxuan has the best temper. You don't need to worry. Even if we fail to refine pills, Uncle Yuxuan won't beat us up. He Pingsheng breathed a sigh of relief. Hao Yun added, even so, we must be careful. The foundation establishment pill that Uncle Master Yu Xian is refining this time is a second-grade pill. Preparing those materials is extremely complicated. It requires both substantial financial resources and extensive connections. Otherwise, it would be impossible to gather all the materials. Come with me, we can kneel down at the door to greet our senior master. Before He Pingxing could speak, Hao Yun grabbed his clothes and pulled him to the courtyard gate of the alchemy room. Hao Yun then took out 2 more prayer mats and threw them on the ground, saying, "Kneel down. Next, we just wait." After all, Master Yu Xian only said that he was coming to refine pills today, but he didn't say what time of day. It could be in the morning, or it could be in the morning and afternoon, or even in the evening. We can't afford to be negligent. Just as He Pingxing had been kneeling for a whole morning, his back ached and his knees were about to cramp, a light suddenly flashed across the distant horizon. Devoted, devoted, devout, devout. Hao Yun repeated devoted 4 times, saying, "Master Uncle is here, quickly kneel down." He Pingxing quickly put on a serious expression, knelt respectfully on the ground, and lowered his head. However, his eyes rolled upwards as he secretly glanced at the celestial light flying over from afar. The light and shadow moved extremely fast, reaching the sky above the entrance of the alchemy room in about a dozen breaths. He Pingxing could see clearly that it was an old Taoist priest with white hair and beard, wearing a blue Taoist robe and holding a white whisk in his hand. He was standing on a celestial sword. Flying on a sword. Hiss, hiss, hiss. He Pingxing exclaimed in amazement and envy, "This guy is a true immortal. Call out." The next moment, Master Yu Xian fell from the sky. "You two get up, stop kneeling." A majestic voice rang out. Yes. This chapter is not finished. Please click the next page to continue reading. The 2 stood up. But then the old man in green waved his hand, and the 3-foot-long sword floating beside him turned into a small sword only the length of a finger, which fell into his hand. He then opened a black cloth bag at his waist and put it inside. He Pingxing's parents were both outer disciples of the Taishu sect, so he had some basic knowledge of cultivation. He knew that this black bag was called a storage bag, also known as a Qiankuan bag. From the outside, they look only the size of a palm, but inside they are a completely different world. The size varies depending on the quality, but the smallest is still about 10 feet in diameter and can hold many treasures. Although He Pingxing had heard of it before, this was the first time he had ever seen it. Before, neither did my parents. Let alone outer disciples like parents, even inner disciples don't necessarily have that kind of parenthood. Storage bags are treasures that cultivators can only possess after reaching the foundation establishment stage. He Pingxing drooled with envy. If he could possess one of these, then he'd have a place to put the treasure bowl, wouldn't he? Besides, the treasure basin allows you to enhance one item every day, and there's a place to put the enhanced item, isn't there? Unlike now, He Pingxing has been enhancing more and more things, but because he has nowhere to put them and is afraid of being exposed, he no longer dares to enhance them. Come in with me. Uncle Master Yu Xian waved his whisk slightly and walked forward on his own. Hao Yun. The elder brought you in from outside and put you in this alchemy room because of the 2 characters Hao Yun in your name. He hoped you could bring me good luck. Hao Yun, beaming, replied, "Absolutely. Uncle Master, you're sure you'll succeed in refining pills this time, and every single one will be top grade." Chapter 10 Exploded Nonsense. As they walked, Senior Uncle Yu Xian turned his head to look at Hao Yun and said, "Let alone our Shouju Peak, throughout the entire Taishu sect from ancient times to the present, among all the elders and disciples of all the peaks, who can refine a high-grade foundation establishment pill? It would be good enough if you could make me refine even one batch of low-grade pills. Of course, if we can get 1 or 2 mid-grade ones, that would be incredibly lucky." Yes, yes, yes. Hao Yun quickly changed his tune, saying, "Then this disciple wishes Master Uncle that all the pills in this batch will be of medium grade." He. Master Yu Xian chuckled, then raised his snow-white whisk again and said, "You lad, you're quite the talker." As he spoke, his gaze fell upon He Pingxing again, and he asked, "This disciple of yours is unfamiliar. What's his name?" When He Pingxing saw that Yu Xian had asked him, he was not afraid. He cupped his hands in a respectful but not arrogant manner and said, "Disciple, No, my name is He Pingxing, and I am a menial disciple. The Taishu sect has a strict hierarchy, with different titles and etiquette for different statuses. He was a menial disciple, but Hao Yun was an outer disciple. Therefore, Hao Yun could refer to himself as a disciple, while he could only refer to himself as a young man. A menial servant. Yu Xian looked at He Pingxing and asked, "Are you someone with spiritual roots?" "Yes." He Pingxing bowed again and said, "This young man possesses the 5 elements of spiritual roots: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth." Heh! Master Yu Xian opposite him was suddenly startled and exclaimed in surprise, "He actually has a 5-element spiritual root. Ah, what a pity, what a pity." He shook his head. After saying that, he asked, "Do you know someone named Xianxia?" He Pingxing nodded and said, "Xianxia was my father, but he passed away several years ago." Master Yu Xian stared intently at He Pingxing with eyes like 2 nails, then asked in a low voice, "Do you know how your father died?" "I know." He Pingxing said, "I heard from my uncle Jiang that we encountered a monster and were harmed by it. Later, my mother went to seek revenge, but she also died in the monster's lair." As he spoke, He Pingxing's eyes reddened. "My parents passed away just a few years ago. It's not that long ago. Alas." Master Yu Xian sighed deeply and said, "Those who cultivate the Tao are bound to suffer some misfortune. Since they have chosen this path, they have no regrets. If you encounter anyone else in the future, do not say that Xianxia is your father. Remember this, remember this. Come, follow me inside and assist with the alchemy." "Yes." The 2 of them took another step and followed Yu Xian into the alchemy room. The alchemy room was spotless. The floor, walls, and even the roof beams were all spotless. Very clean, not bad. Yu Xian nodded approvingly, then said, "Hao Yun, start the fire. You should understand the proper timing and method for preparing this foundation establishment pill, right?" Hao Yun chuckled and said, "This disciple understands. The main ingredient of this foundation establishment pill is the heavenly spirit fruit, and the auxiliary ingredients are cassia seed and Zhengyang chrysanthemum. At the beginning, simmer the heavenly spirit fruit over a low flame, then quickly simmer the cassia seed and chrysanthemum over a high flame. Finally, use a blazing fire to fuse the 3 together. After half an hour, use a gentle fire to remove the excess moisture from the furnace. But when to carry out the operation will depend on your orders, senior uncle." It seems that Hao Yun is quite knowledgeable about alchemy. Good, 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 he. Yu Xian smiled and said, "Then let's begin." Next, Hao Yun personally squatted down and began to light a fire to heat the huge alchemy furnace. A large ladle of water was added to the alchemy furnace. Why? Because wood generates fire. In the 5 elements theory, medicinal herbs belong to wood, while fire naturally belongs to fire. If the herbs are not properly prepared and are placed directly into the alchemy furnace, they will be instantly burned to ashes. Therefore, there should be something to harmonize the elements of wood and fire. The best way to harmonize them is with various elixirs. If there is no elixir available, water can also be used. However, using water will significantly reduce the success rate of alchemy. But that spiritual liquid is a rare and precious material, and ordinary people can't obtain it. Even a foundation establishment disciple like Yu Xian can't get his hands on it, so he can only use water to mix it. Of course, you don't need to add too much water. 1 ladleful is enough. Once the water boils, add the main ingredient, heavenly spirit fruit. Then there are the auxiliary materials. He Pingxing didn't understand. He was just responsible for moving the wood and helping Hao Yun adjust the fire. However, seeing Yu Xian take out the medicinal herbs one by one from the storage bag, he still looked on with envy and curiosity. Before long, wisps of steam rose from the alchemy room. A fragrance unlike any I'd ever smelled wafted from the alchemy furnace. Just one whiff was enough to make one feel refreshed and invigorated. "It's almost finished." Master Yu Xian stared at the alchemy furnace, his divine sense extending into it. "Boy, quickly reduce the fire." "Yes, yes, even smaller." "Enough." Ha ha ha. I've arrived. The most crucial step in alchemy is to fuse the ingredients into a pill. Hearing Master Yu Xian's hearty laughter, He Pingxing thought that this batch of pills was about to be ready. The next moment, a loud bang was heard. A powerful energy wave burst forth from the alchemy furnace. Yu Xian Zhanren remained completely still, and Hao Yun was unaffected because he was lying on the ground tending the fire. However, this energy struck He Pingxing squarely, sending him flying 3 feet into the air before he landed face first in the mud with a thud. We're doomed. Ignoring his own pain, He Pingxing was only thinking about whether his senior uncle Yu Xian would punish him after the batch of pills exploded. If a Foundation establishment stage expert gets angry, wouldn't I lose my life? Not only him, but Hao Yun next to him was also trembling with fear. The air was filled with the smells of medicine and burnt food. There was a deathly silence. After about 3 or 5 breaths, Master Yu Xian waved his whisk and said, "It's not your fault, it's my fault for having a problem during the fusion. In the end, it should be because the quality of the heavenly spirit fruit is a bit lacking. If we can acquire a top-grade heavenly spirit fruit, then today's batch of Foundation establishment pills will be secured. You all pack your things, I'm off." Yu Xian looked very unwell. Although he was already a Foundation establishment cultivator, this batch of Foundation establishment pills still cost him most of his wealth. Now that the alchemy furnace has exploded, all this wealth has vanished into nothingness. Phew. After Yu Xian left, Hao Yun let out a deep breath and said, "I told you, this Uncle Master Yu Xian has the best temper among the dozens of immortals on Shouju Peak. He never blames anyone. If it was someone with a bad temper like us today, we would have given them a good beating. You'd better learn from me from now on, and be more observant." "Yes." He Pingxing nodded quickly. Hao Yun said, "Go, clean the alchemy furnace, sweep the ground clean, and wipe it with water again." Thank you for listening to Panda Audiobooks. If you love what you hear and want to support my work, check out the PayPal link in the description. Every bit helps. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notifications bell to stay updated with all our latest audiobook chapters. We'll see you in the next one.